Thank you for watching The Forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent. And today we're going to be talking about some really impressive people. With us right now, we have Edgar award-winning author Charlie Price. He's written 6 books.
Morning.
And we're very excited to have you here. So he has a major story.
Thank you for coming on. I mean, he is the Charlie Price. We've been trying to get him on here for a long time. He's our local celebrity. You might know him as an author because he's written 6 books. Yep. Is that right? And not only just written, but won awards, is highly read, and won one of the most prestigious awards in writing, which is the Edgar Award. If you're a mystery fan, you understand what that means.
That's right.
Yeah. So, okay, let's find out about Charlie Price. What's your background and how? And you've had a couple years under your belt by now, we can tell. So.
This is makeup, really.
It looks good.
What's your background and how did you end up here in the North State?
I went to a year's worth of theology school in New York City and ran into a man who pulled me into the schools for dropouts in Bedford-Stuyvesant, first in Harlem and then Bedford-Stuyvesant. And I became really interested in education, in the, I think, the thrill of learning rather than the topics in particular. And I wound up doing Head Start in California and then having my own school and working in schools for at-risk kids. And not only did I love the people I worked with, but the kids, I really admired the kids who had almost no resources like many of us grew up with, and they couldn't take things home because things got worse if they took them home. So they learned to develop an interior strength that was phenomenal to me. I saw courage I did not possess. And when I went to work on, I got a different degree and went to work on locked psychiatric units, and there I met more young people who were at the end of their rope, and yet they continued to have a resilience and a great heart. And they're the kind of kids we often avoid.
And overlook.
We not only overlook them, we're afraid of them because they're unpredictable or angry. Some of them are so angry that they can't get support. But those kids many of them have a power and a beauty that, again, I don't possess and that I thought was really marvelous. And I wanted to, when I got a chance to write, I wanted to represent those kids.
And I think one of the things you were saying earlier is that a lot of your books are based on some of the stories that you actually have experienced or heard of or couldn't get rid of, and was writing kind of your catharsis to get through that?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for remembering that. The first book that got published was called Dead Connection, and it was about a kidnapping that took place in Reading a few years ago, and all the people in Reading remember it. The girl disappeared, she was never found. And no one was arrested, although the police felt they understood but couldn't prove. That girl was my daughter's age, and I had trouble sleeping at night, and I wrote a autobiographical book, and then I wrote a book about that girl. And I got a chance to talk about a clairvoyant boy because years ago I'd worked for the parapsychologist in New York City. So I got a chance to tell this story, and I found the girl.
What?
In real life?
No.
Oh, in the book.
But in the book.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, she's never been found in real life, but fortunately, that gave it a chance. Not only did it renew, I hope in a not painful way, the idea that we have to treasure these kinds of experiences and keep them in our culture, so all of us as parents bind together to support each other. Anyway, so that book did well and got published by a house called Roaring Brook, which later got bought by Macmillan. And that started a series of telling these kinds of stories that I heard at work or learned at work.
And what was that first book called? This one that you're referring to, what was that book?
The first one about the kidnapped girl was Dead Connection.
Dead Connection. And is that I don't think we have that one here, but okay, I'll have to read that.
And that led to just the onward.
It was well received, and I was really fortunate as an older guy, and I had not written a novel before age 58, and so.
Wow.
Good for you.
That's a good story.
That is an excellent story.
I love that. Talk about second acts.
Well, now, how long does it take you on average to write a book? Yeah, that's the real question.
You know, what I found is that each book is different. There's a book here called Desert Angel that
You have that one.
I have that one. You want me to hold this up? And you can see
You
the
can keep talking.
cover of it. Go ahead.
Anyway, Desert Angel, my wife Joni and I were driving in a convertible by the Salton Sea. We're looking at the ridges of Joshua Tree, and it's hard scrabble desert. And Joni said, I wonder what it's like to live out here.
Oh, God.
And when she said that, a trailer, a rusty trailer, popped into my mind. I could see the trailer. I could see the girl leaving the trailer and going out to sleep in the gully because she was unsafe to sleep in a trailer because her mother was with another predator. And this story just rolled out.
Wow. That one sentence.
And do you just start writing immediately, or do you? How do you record it?
When we got back to the motel, I started writing.
Yeah. Okay.
So that book rolled out in about 4 or 5 months, and that book in particular I just watched. I just watched through the computer screen. I followed that girl. And I don't know, a quick story I often tell about that book and about writing is I'm watching her and I know she's going to cross a paved road and go into the hills and meet an Afghan vet who's going to feel a kinship, and he's going to protect her from the predator.
Wow.
So I'm watching her walk and she doesn't cross the road. She doesn't cross the road. She turns right.
Oh, no.
And in so doing, I wound up meeting a Mexican-American family that changed the whole nature of the book and made it one of my best stories.
Wow. So that is so interesting that you
Process.
It's like they take, and I've heard this from writers before, that it takes on their own life.
It's unbelievable. It's impossible to believe, but it's true. My wife heard me screaming.
You were so surprised.
And I didn't like it. I mean, I couldn't wait to meet this vet.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know anything about this other family. I would never have seen it. Anyway, so that's the interior process that occurs with writing. So that was a quick book. But this sequel has taken me 2 years to write, probably 5,000 hours. A couple of the books, because of their structure. Oh, the one that won the Edgar is like shuffling a deck of cards, and gradually you reveal card by card until somehow you revealed the entire suits in order.
Oh, wow.
Because that's told through an investigation where deputies are asking this kid who doesn't want to tell them what happened, how did 2 other kids get shot. And so with their questions, gradually the story emerges, even though he's trying to keep it from them.
I'm sorry, but doesn't this make you just want to read? I mean, it makes me want to pick up the book right now and read it, and I probably will go buy one, unless you have one in your car for me. But it's so interesting. It makes me want to
carry
know what
30 or 40.
You should carry 30.
So happens.
Yeah, check it out.
There you go.
That is very interesting. So now your wife is you said she was in the psych field.
Right, she's a psychotherapist for about 40 years and then has been an artist now for the last 5. And her show is at the airport.
Oh. What's her name?
Joan Pahonic.
Joan Pahonic. Okay. So you both took different turns, but you're kind of, a lot of your stories have things to do kind of with that psych realm.
They definitely do.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So I have to ask, you also do, switch gears a little bit, you also do leadership consulting and development. So how did that come about, and how does that play into your life as a writer?
In a couple of ways. Well, it came about because a friend of mine wanted to have a leadership program in his corporation, and his corporation was Equity Residential Properties, and he was a vice president, and he wanted to, he'd had some wonderful experiences in leadership trainings and wanted to provide that for his company. And I helped him over time. It was like reading a course. We read a bunch of books and I would outline them for him. I helped him develop a campaign to justify the value of this program. And then when it was time to work with the execs, I realized that the instruments they were going to use, the psych instruments, were so laden with feeling that it would be a mistake not to have support people there to just to handle things that came up.
That's interesting.
If you're going to tell me I can't communicate with people,
I know.
and so we began sending. I began going with a team, and there were other teams that did that, and that gradually turned into a consulting practice.
Wow.
And the amazing thing to me was that for years and years, what I wanted to do was work with people, groups of kids, groups of adolescents, groups of adults. And I got really good training in San Francisco at Langley Porter in doing groups. And it turns out that that group training fits all the way across our lives. It fits in every group. It fits with executives, because we're all really operating under the same constraints.
Absolutely.
We all want to be understood, we want to be heard, and we often don't realize that we're projecting things that keep us from being respected. Like most executives the execs that get sent to these things are either on the promotion track and they want to build their skills as much as possible, or they're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. They either are there, yeah. So I can't believe we're almost out of time. This has been so interesting. What's your website? Give our viewers your website.
It's charliepriceauthor.com.
And is that kind of the hub for everything from your writing, your consulting, everything is under Charlie Price?
It's all there.
charliepriceauthor.com. We've been very fortunate to have you with us today.
Thank you.
It's really interesting. I love hearing these second turnaround stories, if you will. Not really a turnaround, just a second half.
I know, it's
just
stories,
living, like
right?
you're just going with his journey, and I respect that, because I feel like a lot of people get stuck in whatever they're doing. They feel like they have to end doing whatever they're doing, and I love that both you and your wife have decided to just follow your journey and go wherever you're living, and that's
well, I know that all of us have dreams, and we almost all think they're impossible. And
those are the best dreams.
They're not. Your testimony to that.
They're not impossible.
They're not impossible. Thank you so much, Charlie, for being on Charlie Price. We'll look forward to reading your books. Yeah,
great,
and even more awards.
I'd be honored.
Okay, we are finished with the first half, obviously, and we're going to be taking a quick break, and then Ashley and I will be right back with the second half.
Hi, we are back, and we're continuing our segment with impressive people, and we're here with Paul Niess. He is the owner of Father Time in Chico, and while that may not sound super impressive right now because you don't know what Father Time is all about, you're going to let us know, right? I mean, there's a lot to learn. Okay,
absolutely.
So let's dive in with this.
Dive in.
Yeah.
So, Paul, how did you become interested in timepieces?
Well, first of all, my family has always been in the trades, always. So my grandfather was a master metalsmith and so on and so forth. So I was always interested in doing things with my hands. I grew up in the Bay Area and ended up spending a lot of time with my grandmother in Sonoma. And one wintry day, she took me to a place called the Jack London Bookstore by Glen Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
And we walked into this bookstore. I loved to read, and the store was so old that the street was higher than the store, so you had to walk down. And so I was a little kid.
So unusual.
Yeah, I was about 9 years of age, and we walked into this creepy, dusty old store, and this man popped up from behind a stack of books, and he had Coke bottle glasses on, and he said in a Maine accent, how can I help you? And he scared us because it was kind of creepy, but he was the neatest guy. And it turns out, as we got to talking with him, he was a retired professor from MIT, worked on the Manhattan Project, but he was a third-generation master clockmaker.
Wow.
So every weekend I would go to the Jack London bookstore, and I was very fortunate too because I love to read, and one of my favorite authors was Jack London.
Oh.
And so what I didn't know is that the man that I was getting to know on the other side of the counter was Russ Kingman, who was a very famous biographer for Jack London.
Oh, my
wow.
goodness.
He and his wife Winifred took care of Jack London's daughter, who was a mute.
Really?
Wow.
So when I was
Interesting story.
when I was a kid, and your previous interview made me think of this because you were interviewing this famous author. When I was a kid, I was actually able to sit with this gentleman, Russ Kingman, and he would flip through these handwritten manuscripts that Jack London had written. And so they had the ability to do this because they were taking care of his daughter. So anyways, I apprenticed with Herb Green, who was born right around 1900. And he put himself through college by repairing timepieces for the professors and students at Princeton. So it tells you how far, how inflation has affected education. I would try that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyways, I apprenticed with him for many years. He was a fabulous man. And eventually, when I finished with him, after about 15 years, I went over to Chico State. And my mother said, you know, I just want one child to go to college, just one. We were from a rough neighborhood in San Francisco, so, you know, it was either you're going to do this or, you know. So that was, I said, okay, Mom, I'm going to do it. So I went to Chico State and studied history, psychology, and education. And when I graduated, I had $1,000 left. That was it, my life savings. And so I called up some buddies. I said I found a little spot in downtown Chico that's a storage room. It's about a 10 by 15 storage room.
Yeah.
And I said, fellas, I need 2x4s, I need sheetrock, I need wiring, I need nails and screws and everything. I got $1,000. I'll buy all the pizza and beer. Let's make this happen.
And you were going to create Father Time?
I was going to create Father Time.
So you already knew that you wanted to do...
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
15 years of apprenticeship.
I know, but you know,
mean,
but that doesn't
that's
mean that somebody
amazing.
wants to be an entrepreneur. You could go work for...
That's true.
You
Right.
know, you could go work for any sort of watch company or...
Yes.
You know...
I could have worked for Rolex. I could have worked for... So I called my mom. And this was not a good experience, but I called her and I said, you know, I had just been accepted to the graduate program at Chico State for history. And I was going to become a school teacher. I really wanted to be a professor of history. But I called my mom and she was so proud. And I said, Mom, and this is something parents don't want to hear. I said, Mom, you know, I'm going to take a year off of school and I'm going to open my own little business. And that was the scream that was heard around the world. And so Dad got on the phone and said, don't worry, after several, you know, cocktails, she'll calm down. She may not talk to you for 6 months, but yeah.
So golden boy.
The golden boy.
Down the tubes.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I opened Father Time and we had about $100 in the bank and I was very poor. Yeah. And so I lived in the store in the back with my dog. I had a hot plate and a mini fridge and thought,
love it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That is a true leap of faith, and I mean, and doing something that, I mean, one of my questions is, now that the whole, you know, iPhone thing is in, and everybody's checking their iPhones and all this, my husband always talks about watches making a comeback.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I really feel like they are, and I mean, and very intricate watches where you kind of see the...
Yes.
So what is that?
That's called
the gears.
Skeletonization.
Oh.
So you can take a timepiece, as a watchmaker, I can take a timepiece, the plates of the timepiece, and cut out entire sections so that you can see through the plates and actually watch the gears move.
So I could come in with a watch that I'm asking you, I don't really know. So I can come in with a watch that I have now, and you can skeletonize my watch?
Yes, I could skeletonize. It would take probably about a week and a half, and
Oh,
I could skeletonize everything and then give it back to you, and you could see, preferably a mechanical timepiece, not a battery operated timepiece.
Sure, that would make
And then we can skeletonize it so that you can see every tooth, every spring, everything.
That is, wow.
So
such good improvisation for the times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
make it interesting.
Yes.
So how did you take it from a storefront to world renown that you have now?
Yes.
Well, I was very fortunate that you have a local celeb who just passed away by the name of John Humphreys.
Oh.
And John Humphreys was a very famous appraiser that had a national radio syndicated radio program.
Yeah.
And he came into my store in Chico one day and he gave me a pocket watch and he says, can you fix this? And I said, yeah. And he says, how much? And I said, I mean, I was just brand new in business, and I couldn't even afford potato salad. So I said, $25. Just please, $25. You know, and I hadn't had a Coca-Cola in months. And so he came back a week later. I gave him his watch back. It ran perfect. And he says, meet me in Reading at 4 o'clock in the morning on this particular Saturday. And he wouldn't tell me why, but he says, just trust me. So, and he gave me his card. So I said, I'm going for it. So my dog and I loaded up in the jalopy and we headed to Reading, and at 4 o'clock in the morning we were at his house, and he had a radio station in his home. And so we were going to broadcast and hit the entire eastern seaboard in the morning.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
Oh my God.
So he says, this is what we're going to do. And I'd never been on radio before.
Right now, it doesn't seem like you have a problem.
Well, now I don't, but then I did.
Okay.
And I was very nervous.
Yes.
And so we're talking to, we have this computer screen in front of us, and we're talking to people on the eastern seaboard saying, okay, in about 10 minutes, we're going to be on. You know, and he says, and the guy, he's a big New Yorker guy, and he says, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're on. And so I shut down immediately, and he starts talking. And we're getting phone calls from people all over the East Coast and all over the Midwest, even up in Canada. We have people listening on the internet all over the world to this famous appraiser. And they're calling in about things that they have and what they might be. And he has a photographic memory, so he was like an Encyclopedia Britannica in and of itself.
Wow.
So we got a phone call from the great-great-great-granddaughter of Daniel Webster. And she says, I have homes in Europe and I have homes here in the United States. I have his original pocket watch, the one that he bought when he cashed in on the dictionary in the late 1700s. And she says, nobody can fix it. Do you think you can fix it? And of course, by this time, I just think that it's a joke call. So, you know.
Like, sure, send it in.
Absolutely. So a couple weeks later, so I gave out my name, telephone, address on live radio, and a couple weeks later, I didn't know that the post office had armed guards.
Oh.
I had no idea.
I did not know that either.
I did not know that there were such things as postal cops.
Oh my God.
So this postmaster guy shows up with an armed postal service person, and they hand me one of the most expensive packages that's ever come through the post office.
Well, I was wondering because when he was talking about these different watches and clocks and things, I mean, from all over the world, people are sending these things to you, and I was actually wondering, how are you able to get this merchandise and, you know,
insured and
exactly.
Yeah, you insured for a while.
What did you do when you got that?
Freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, freaked out. So I got it. I took it all apart. I was trained traditionally on chain-driven watches, which are 400 and 500 years of age, and so it was not a big deal.
Yeah, it was easy for you.
It was easy for me, and it's just part of the trade that had been lost for
but
forever.
you were probably one of the last few people to learn that. So how many people in the country, or anywhere actually, how many people do you know that do this type of work?
20 years ago, there were less than 10,000 of us in the entire world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a pretty big deal.
And the average age was 85.
Wow.
Average.
Yeah, average age was 85, 20 years ago.
We were actually very surprised that you weren't.
We thought when we heard he was coming, we thought we were getting an old guy.
Oh, that's okay.
So what's your website so people can connect you if they have a timepiece?
Sure, it's fathertimcompany.com.
Okay.
And my name's Paul, and I'm down in Chico at Father Time.
Wow, and what's your lead time on repairs?
It just depends on what you bring us. If something just needs a simple cleaning, a few days. If something needs complete restoration, it could take a few months.
Okay.
I do have to say
Father
that I
Time
love
Company.
that he's so down to earth. That makes it so nice.
Well,
I know.
thank you.
I wish you guys. We've had such a great day today, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Charlie, you, Paul, this has been fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
Go see him, Father Time
you.
in Chico. He's right downtown.
Yeah, right in the old downtown area. Yeah.
Well, it's been another great day on the forum. Ashley and I have really enjoyed being here with you, and thank you for watching, and we're going to look forward to seeing you again next time as we find out more interesting people doing even more interesting things.